Vincent and the Doctor is considered by many fans to be one of the best episodes of the Matt Smith era. While I do consider it a good episode, I do have to say it says a lot for the lower standards of the Matt Smith era if this is one of the best. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself just yet. First, I want to talk about what does work in this episode. Tony Curran is faultless as Van Gogh. He delivers just the right emotion at just the right times, and despite the fact this episode is set at a time when Van Gogh was supposed to be going a bit mad, he plays him fairly straight and is a very likeable guy, but also with that little element of strangeness and passion that all artists have. I think the makeup department also did a great job making him look just like his portraits. The sets are stunning. The cafe and Van Gogh's bedroom look just like the paintings, though the bedroom does look a little gimmicky, like they only had it in there for the novelty of making it look like the painting, but it is still a very impressive set. I also like the line where Van Gogh asks if Amy is Dutch like him. Since both actors are Scottish, I guess the TARDIS translates the Scottish accent into Dutch, and vice versa. Now granted the story isn't completely historically accurate, with it being set in 1890 and Van Gogh still having both ears when in fact he cut one off in 1888, and the indication that he had yet to paint the vase with 12 sunflowers, which in fact he also painted in 1888. But these changes are certainly for the better. Making reference to his more famous paintings makes things much easier for a viewer less familiar with his work to follow things. And honestly, would you really have wanted to watch Tony Curran with a bandage on one side of his head the whole time? And there is one historical fact that this episode gets right that people do often get wrong, but Van Gogh did sell one painting during his lifetime. And then you have the Crephaeus. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no problem with them inserting a monster into a historical figure's life. This is Doctor Who after all. You've got to have some sort of monster. But in this case, I really feel like it's only been added to the story to pad out the episode. Like they originally just had the story of the Doctor and Amy going to see Van Gogh, but found it only covered 20 minutes, so they just added this monster to bump things up to the required 45 minutes. Maybe the fact that Van Gogh is the only one that can see it works as a bit of a window into his madness, except for the fact that they never actually explain why he's the only one that can see it. The actual fight they have with it isn't even the climax of the episode, and once it's dead, it's completely forgotten about in the next scene. But I will give that scene some credit. That image of Van Gogh stabbing an invisible monster with his easel was pretty awesome. But I do agree that the ending to this episode is truly brilliant. Say what you want about this being one of the greatest episodes in the show's history, but the scene of Van Gogh standing in the Musée d'Orsay, staring completely stunned at countless pieces of his own work on display and then overcome with emotion while listening to Mr. Black call him one of the greatest men who ever lived, is certainly one of the greatest single scenes in the show's history. The way it's shot, the choice of song, and Bill Nye's performance are all done perfectly to really bring across that feeling of joy that you would feel if, having never been appreciated during your entire life, you suddenly discovered you were one of the greatest human beings to ever walk the earth. I can't help but tear up every time I watch it. But with that said, I do still have a few issues with the ending. First of all, Van Gogh seems understandably surprised when he sees the inside of the TARDIS, but doesn't seem at all put out when the Doctor tells him that they are in the year 2010. Second, there is the fact that, despite knowing he would be recognised as a great artist over 100 years later, Van Gogh apparently still committed suicide. Now, I'm not suggesting that they should have changed that historical fact. Doctor Who has never done things like that, but they have sometimes changed the details of historical events. Why not at least attempt to explain why he would have committed suicide, even with the knowledge that he would be recognised as a great artist? There is actually some debate about if Van Gogh actually committed suicide at all, since the gun he was supposed to have killed himself with was never found. So why not suggest that he didn't actually commit suicide at all, and instead was killed in a freak accident and it just looked like he committed suicide? Some sort of explanation as to why he died when he did and didn't paint anything new would have been nice. Overall, Vincent and the Doctor is a good episode, but I do kind of wonder if anyone that calls it a great one just had their Richard Curtis beer goggles on.